Good afternoon. This is all about Bitcoin, a show dedicated to all things questions and markets related to Bitcoin, little b for the currency, and Bitcoin, big B for the network. A collective journey to understand, apply, and use this innovation, all Bitcoin, all the time. I'm your host, Christine Lee. Let's take a look at our top stories. And the Bitcoin bears are showing their claws. Bitcoin dropping below $30,000 for the first time in 4 weeks, breaking below a trading range that held for the past 4 weeks and potentially setting up the largest cryptocurrency for deeper price declines. Analysts telling CoinDesk to brace for lower lows towards 20 to 22,000 as frothy markets and virus jitters triggered widespread panic selling of every top performing asset, with Bitcoin being at the top of the list. So checking in on Bitcoin, let's have a live look. The CoinDesk Bitcoin price XBX index right now at $29,777. Bitcoin is down almost 3% over the past 24 hours. The most reliable reference prices for institutions since 2014 are now published under the CoinDesk brand, trusted globally as the leader in crypto news, events, and data.
The chart of the day is brought to you by Crypto.com, the world's fastest growing crypto app.
For those looking for a silver lining, arcane research has one in the form of Bitcoin to US dollar volatility declining while Bitcoin trails around yearly lows. This chart showing the 7-day volatility recording its lowest level since last October. Arcane research saying the volatility is declining as Bitcoin converges toward the low end of its 2-month consolidation range, concluding that a spike in price seems imminent at this critical level. Oanda analyst Edward Moya warning that Bitcoin could be vulnerable, nevertheless, to a flash crash towards the $20,000 level, which should attract many institutional buyers that have been waiting patiently on the sidelines. Analysts also telling CoinDesk that if any good news for crypto bulls can be extracted, it's that the market is seeing low volumes while grinding lower, which potentially signals that sellers are exhausted and that the market is waiting for some positive news. And joining us now to discuss the crypto markets is Joshua Lin, head of derivatives trading at Genesis Global Trading. Welcome to the show, Josh.
Thanks for having me.
Great to have you. So Bitcoin below $30,000. You know, media outlets are reporting that Bitcoin has wiped out all of its 2021 gains. It hasn't happened yet, but it's dangerously close. So what is your assessment on Bitcoin's price direction?
Yeah, I think what we're seeing is a little bit of the reversal from, the very, very strong price performance that we saw in Q1 of this year. Obviously, Q1 saw, and Q4 of last year to some extent, saw the entrance of a lot of new institutional participation into the space. And a lot of that was driven by sort of the upcoming, major milestones and liquidity events that were forecast for early 2021. Notably the Coinbase listing on equity markets. That was a big focal point for a lot of institutional investors. And I think now you're seeing a lot of those sort of, macro investors starting to they certainly were, on the sidelines on the way down. Now they're starting to look for entry points to sort of allocate more capital into the space. And you're kind of seeing that in some of the headlines that you see, big fundraising rounds for notable companies in the space. But I think, as we get to this, hover around this $30,000 level, you're going to see a lot of people start thinking, when is the right point to get back into Bitcoin?
So when is it? How low can it go as they look for entry points? What's the new support level?
Yeah, I think, some of the key levels that people talk about in the market, there are certainly a lot of public balance sheets now that have some exposure to crypto. And, the sort of the average price of a lot of those balance sheets is relatively well known. One of them being from MicroStrategy, another one being Tesla. I think a lot of people are looking sort of in the mid-20s as a point where kind of psychologically, that's kind of where a lot of newer entrants are kind of got in their entry points. And so the question will be like, once we get to those levels, what are people going to do? Is there any sort of pressure to liquidate or rebalance portfolios and things like that? So Bitcoin and other crypto assets obviously have a tendency to overshoot. So we think, sort of in the low 20s, if it gets to that point, that's kind of where people will be keeping an eye on the levels to sort of allocate back into the space.
Mm-hmm. At the same time, Tesla is also draining its 2021 gains. What can you say about this parallel? Is there one?
Yeah, I think Tesla has obviously been very vocal at times, very supportive for crypto, and at other times has been a distractor. Obviously, Elon has made a couple of statements just around the sort of social, environmental aspects of crypto, of Bitcoin in particular. I think what we're actually seeing in the market now is a little bit less of an impact from those types of sentiments, like the sort of ESG sentiments. I think a lot of people understand that Bitcoin is one of many sort of technologies and blockchains that are evolving in the crypto space. And that's kind of what we're hoping for as institutional investors, as a dealer in the space, that no one single person or one single sort of corporate balance sheet can dictate the direction of the asset class.
All right. Yeah, it's interesting how Tesla interacts with Bitcoin. They hold a lot of Bitcoin in their treasury, but of course, the CEO, Elon Musk, announced earlier this year that they will no longer accept Bitcoin as payments, potentially triggering the sell-off that we've seen, as well as promoting the dialogue, the narrative that ESG concerns within the Bitcoin space are something that institutions should look at. But nevertheless, how are you hedging your risk amid all of this volatility?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think what we're seeing is, because of the nature of investors in the space becoming more sophisticated, more institutional, we've seen a huge pickup in particularly our derivatives segment. So especially as compared to kind of the growth that we've seen on the spot trading side of our business, we've seen a lot more people using options to hedge their downside exposure. And there is a liquid market for Bitcoin and Ethereum options. And people are, particularly sort of the venture-like investors in the space are using the liquid assets and the options markets in Bitcoin and Ethereum to hedge their exposure to other assets in the space. So I do think, when you see a lot of these majors and kind of the performance, a lot of times people are sellers of those assets as a way to sort of reduce their exposure to other, other certain, let's say, DeFi exposures or smaller cap tokens that they have in their book. I would also say, what we've seen in the last couple of weeks has been folks adding sort of 1 month to 2 month put options into their portfolio. A lot of times it's been sort of part of a systematic program to hedge their downside exposure.
What kind of strike prices?
It ranges anywhere from 30 to 25K. I would say that those are kind of where people are focused, close to at the money, where they can get some meaningful sort of mark-to-market gains on those positions if we see a moderate correction. And I think that's sort of like, that's the thought is, we will see some sort of longer-term range-bound activity around 30K. But if we do break, it would be a substantial break to the downside. So I think that sort of systematic hedging is definitely picking up a lot. And you're seeing that actually being reflected in kind of like the skew, right? So the demand for, or the implied volatility on downside versus upside. And that's really at elevated levels we haven't seen in a while.
Joshua, we got to wrap, but before we do, I just really quickly want to get your outlook on Bitcoin in the next 3 months compared to the end of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in the next 3 months, we should expect crypto to sort of consolidate around here. We do think that people are going to be picking sort of assets to focus on, particularly revenue generating tokens in the market. We've seen a focus on NFTs and gaming, as well as sort of the catalyst surrounding Ethereum. There's a lot of things going on with EIP 1559 in the next couple of weeks. So I think in the next month or two, that's kind of where the focus will be, trying to find out performance opportunities.
All right, Joshua, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
That was Genesis Global Trading Head of Derivatives, Joshua Lin. Coming up, the EU is looking to ban anonymous crypto wallets, and FTX announces the biggest raise in crypto history. More on that with BitBlock Boom.
CoinDesk indexes, the market standard for crypto assets since 2014. Our trusted data powers billions in publicly traded funds. CoinDesk indexes are the standard used by institutions, and they're the key for investors looking to understand and access crypto markets.
CoinDesk Bitcoin Price Index XBX has been instrumental to Grayscale, enabling investors around the world to access Bitcoin through a regulated, familiar product.
CoinDesk indexes enabled the early adopters to build crypto investment vehicles, and they're already trusted by a new generation of global investors.
Welcome back. Well, if there's one crypto firm that's winning in this market, it's FTX, raising $900 million in a second round of funding that is the largest raise in crypto history. The latest round values the crypto exchange at $18 billion worth, with funds to be used to expand its presence and make strategic investments. Meanwhile, the European Union is proposing a law banning anonymous crypto wallets and requiring companies to collect the identities of crypto recipients and senders. Reuters reporting the law proposed by the European Commission would apply what is known as the travel rule to crypto transactions to make them traceable and know your customer or KYC compliant. Joining us now to discuss is a self-described Bitcoin boomer, Gary Leland, founder of the BitBlock Boom Bitcoin conference happening in Dallas, Texas in August, and producer of the 4-Minute Bitcoin Show. Welcome to the show, Gary.
Thanks for having me.
So, Gary, off the bat, we're seeing Bitcoin dip below 30,000. Your reaction to that? The bears are out. They're saying retail investors are now in the red. The volatility is real and harmful.
Yeah, it is. It's settling down. But, I've seen Bitcoin and held when it went from 20 to 3,500. So, I mean, this is just normal for Bitcoin. It's just another thing that happens. I'm a hodler, I believe, buying and holding, which I do. I'm not a trader or advisor, but, I'm buying. I bought yesterday, I bought today, and I'll probably buy tomorrow. So.
Fair enough. At the same time, the EU is proposing a ban on crypto wallets and this travel rule being applied to crypto transactions, meaning exchanges will have to collect your data when you make crypto transactions. Your thoughts on that?
Well, it seems to me like most CoinDesk and most people in the U.S. already collect your data and know who you are when you buy and sell. I'm sure there are private wallets out there. I personally don't use any. I'm pretty much above board on what I do. That keeps you from getting in a lot of trouble. I'm sure it'll affect some people who want to do stuff and not pay their taxes or invest on their investments or their capital gains or whatever. But to me, it's not that big of an issue. And if people do not want their wallets to be known who they are and that they have a wallet, I don't think they're going to be able to stop that.
Did you say Coinbase or CoinDesk? CoinDesk, we do not track your
Coinbase,
your
I meant to say.
Okay.
Coinbase, I meant to say. Excuse me. Thank you for the correction there.
Because the crypto wallet rule in the United States, when that has been floated around, it was very controversial. People, say that this can't be really done with some transactions when looking at DeFi and such, and they're concerned about their privacy.
Yeah, correct. You're going to have a hard time enforcing that. I would think, but I'm sure people will try. Mm-hmm. I'm sure people will think that's for the best interest, but I just don't see how that's enforceable across the board. And the people who who it would be enforced for are going to be people who would follow those rules anyway. Yeah.
Switching topics, El Salvador. They're talking about introducing a stablecoin after adopting Bitcoin as legal tender. What are your thoughts? Because in the crypto community, this was looked at with a bit of skepticism. They don't want coins that are not Bitcoin to be, entered into.
Well, as a Bitcoin maximalist, all Bitcoin maximalists just want Bitcoin anyway. That's all we want. But we're willing to accept the dollar. So I'd be honest with you, I have been in the Bahamas for the last week to 10 days. So I am not current as I normally am on the news on El Salvador and was not familiar with the news on the stable coin. But I would think the dollar would be a good enough stable coin for him, especially since the dollar's coming out with a currency. Well, Gary, I would think that would work.
You're in the business of live events, and the B Word is happening tomorrow. It's featuring the techno king of Tesla, Elon Musk, Square and Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey, as well as ARK Invest's Cathie Wood. They're going to demystify and destigmatize mainstream narratives about Bitcoin. And it's a unique cast of characters. I would love to hear what you anticipate from each one of them.
Well, it is a real unique list of characters there. You got two people who are strong Bitcoin bulls, and then one who's bought more Bitcoin than anybody, but seems to be bent on destroying the price of Bitcoin with this FUD. So I really don't understand what the three of those are doing together. That should be a great show to watch, though, for sure. But Woods and but Musk, all he seems to do lately is talk about things that devalue his investment, which I don't understand completely why someone would say things that devalue a huge investment like that, unless they purposely want to devalue it.
We'll just have to wait and see. And BitBlock Boom, your event is happening in Dallas next month. Why Texas?
Well, because I live here.
Okay.
How about that?
Fair enough.
I live here. It's
I thought you were going to say something about the mining industry and going to Texas, but fair enough.
It's plain and simple. But the mining industry is all moving here, isn't it? Which is an exciting thing. And as far as the talk about the negative points about electrical and Bitcoin using up so much fuel and things like that, well, it's all moving from China, where it is dirty, to Texas, where it's clean. So that's a great thing to happen to Bitcoin long term, is moving to Texas, where we have so much clean energy. And hopefully that gets rid of the FUD that Bitcoin is so bad for the environment that Tesla won't accept it for cars, which I wonder how many cars they actually sold with Bitcoin.
All right,
Gary. Hopefully this gets rid of the FUD.
Looking forward to it. Appreciate you coming on the show.
Thanks for having me on.
That was BitBlock Boom founder Gary Leland. And that's it for All About Bitcoin. I'm your host, Christine Lee. Join us tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. in New York for First Mover, your first look at the day's global crypto news headlines. You're watching CoinDesk TV.